Morning Internet, and welcome to another fabulous adventure video with the Urban Biker. Today we're going to be talking about what it takes to get an old bike in shape for riding. Okay, why would you want to fix an old bike rather than buying a new one? The reason this idea comes up is because a lot of people in the last few months have probably woken up some morning thinking that your fitness level has gone to hell, or else you're gaining weight or something like that because you're really not as active as you used to be. So you decide that you want to go out, maybe bicycling is the thing that you want to do, so you think that you might want to go and buy a new bicycle. But what you're finding more and more, especially starting back in May in the United States, is that there is a shortage of new bicycles, especially in the $200 to $500 range. So unless you want to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a bicycle, you're not going to find one, or you're going to have to wait for one. But the mistake a lot of people make is that you don't really need a new bicycle. Chances are pretty good that you've got a bicycle at your house already, either in the basement, in the garage, down on the back porch, and you just haven't used it in a while. Or your kids had bicycles that they're no longer using. They've moved away and you have a bike that's really old. You don't really need a whole lot to make an old bicycle work again, but there are a few things that I made a list for that you might want to consider. First, of course, you need an old bike. If you don't have an old bike, well, switch to another video. The first thing you want to do with a really old bike is check the frame. If your frame is broken anywhere or bent anywhere, you need a new bike. Your frame cannot be fixed. So if you have a bent frame, or worse yet, a broken bottom bracket, the bottom bracket, by the way, is where the pedals actually connect to the frame. If that is broken, or if the frame itself is bent or broken in any way, you need a new bike. You can't fix the frame. The second thing you need to check is brakes. If you can make your brakes work, okay, that's good. Tires. Any bike that's been stored or for a long time or hasn't been used for a long time probably needs new tires, because rubber on bicycle tires rots. It doesn't last forever. The third thing is gearing. Lots of people are stymied by gears on bicycles, but you shouldn't be. They're relatively simple things, and most gears, especially on bikes within the last 10 to 15 years, they just need to be cleaned and lubricated and they'll work. They use what's called index shifting. So when you click the shifter on the handlebar or on the lower part of the frame, the gear clicks into position. Older bikes use what's called friction shifters, which you sort of have to play with them to get them into the right gear. But no matter which kind you have, as long as you clean and lube them, they should work. You might need new parts. For example, the rear derailleur on a bicycle might need to be replaced. If it's a really old bike, you're not going to buy parts to fix the derailleur. So the best thing to do is simply replace it. The next thing you need to check is cables. Cables need to be lubricated just like your gearing does. Only, of course, you use grease instead of oil. You can use oil if you want to. WD-40, it's an old bike, who cares, right? As long as the cables move smoothly through the housings and your brakes are working properly and your gears are shifting properly, then you're okay. You want to make sure the cables are not frayed. They should be strong cables without any parts of it that are frayed. You don't want the cable to break while you're using them, especially a brake cable. If you get a good set of tires, the only thing you need to worry about is the tire, does it have a nice, smooth tread? Look at this tire. You would think I was going on an Antarctic expedition with this tire. No one needs treads like this. So if your tires are like this on the bike, it's probably, first of all, an old bike. It was probably bought for children, and there's far too much tread on this tire, and it's going to cause way too much pedaling friction. You don't want tires like this. A bicycle tire does not need a lot of tread in order to work properly. Car tires are a different story, but on a bicycle, the smoother the tire, the better. If you look at good and expensive bicycle tires, you'll find that they have very little tread on them at all. So if you have to get new tires, tell the bicycle shop that you want good tires for touring that will fit your bike. That way you'll get a smooth tread. This is the bottom bracket right here. You can see that it's the part of the frame where the pedals and the axle for the pedals or the cranks go into the bicycle frame. These are called cranks, and the pedal connects to the crank. And the cranks are connected inside the bottom bracket by an axle that goes through the frame. So this is probably the most critical part of the frame, because it takes a lot of stress because of the pedaling that you're doing, and if it's cracked or bent, then you need a new bicycle. And obviously the rest of the frame, as I mentioned before, if the frame is cracked or bent or broken in any way, you need a new bicycle. This is my niece's bicycle. She hasn't ridden it in over 11 years. So when I first started riding it recently, the thing I was concerned with the most were the tires. The tires surprisingly look pretty good, even though, like I just said, the tread on them is way too thick. But the frame is in good shape, the gearing is in good shape. It does need to be cleaned, however, and the brakes are in good shape. Everything works. It's a little heavy. It's not one of these racing bikes. It is very, very heavy. But if you're just using a bicycle for fitness, who cares how heavy it is? People always make fun of me because the last couple of bikes that I've had all have kickstands. Now, if you're old, or older I should say, you all remember bicycles had kickstands when you first got your bikes. Modern, expensive bicycles don't have kickstands. But I'm going to tell you something. They really come in handy. So I just take it, if people want to make fun of me because I have a kickstand, well, that's fine. I can lean my bike on the kickstand and they can find a tree or something else to lean their bike against. There's nothing wrong with the kickstand. Just make sure it's tight. You don't want it flopping around in the back because it is in danger of going into the spokes, which, when you're riding the bike, would not be a good thing. You can see there are 7 rings on the freewheel on the back of the bike. That means there's 7 gears coming from the back. And this goes from a 30 on the big gear down to 12 on the small gear. It gives a pretty good range of gears. On the front, we've got a 48 tooth big gear, and I think it's a 28 tooth small gear. There are 3 gears on the front. The 48 tooth gear is not usable. I can't get the chain onto the 48 tooth ring. That's the only thing on the bike that actually doesn't work, and it's not really broken. It would just take some adjustment of one of these screws, I think, to get the chain to move to the 48 tooth gear. Okay, so what other kind of equipment do you need to start off in bicycle riding? Number 1, you need a helmet. Go to a bike shop, get a helmet that fits. There's no shortage of bicycle helmets, so get one that fits and wear it. You need a pair of gloves. What do? 1, they cushion your hands if you're on long rides. Now, they're not great for cushioning your hands, but they will help. But the other thing they do is they protect your hands in a fall. If you fall onto the road or gravel and land on your hand, you're going to really cut up the palm. These help protect your hands if there is a fall. And this is not really safety equipment, but you're going to need a water bottle. Get a bicycle cage that you can attach to the frame and carry a water bottle around with you. And that's it. You really don't need a whole lot to get started with fitness and bicycling. If you can think of anything I left off, please put it in the comments below. And thanks for watching.